everything should be working as it was last time. I've gotten myself a new webcam, so hopefully stuff should be able to be seen better. If I stick my hand down here, see, I can do this and stick my hand behind it and get a much better focus than I think we managed to get before. So, finishing off these guys, and yeah, I know I'll funny talk because I've got a paintbrush in my mouth. Black mainly, because there's not a lot left to do on them. I've basically got, you know, the weapons, the roll on the back, canteen, grenade, hose, goggles, about it. So it's probably not going to take very long, I'd imagine. And thankfully, I'm not going to need too many paints to actually get it all done. And if I do get this done fairly quickly, I've got a box to my side with another 10 miniatures sitting in that I could just start up. Let's just get the black out first, because most of it is going to be black today. Most of it's just blacking. Also, I've manoeuvred things around so I can actually see what I'm doing. Hello, hello. I am doing quite well. Yes, thank you very much. It's a decent temperature here today, and everything's nice and quiet. Whoop. Took me a little while to get the setup put back to where it was originally from last week, because I couldn't remember what position I had everything in. Last week. It wasn't last week, it was last month. I don't know why I said last week. Here we are. Oh. Oh. Don't think I picked a particularly good paintbrush for this one. missed a bit. So there we are. That's most of the black. Oh, just a bit on the grenade. Most of the black that I'm looking to do is fairly quick. There we are. And I think I may have done over his thumb. But, as ever with miniature painting, that's something I can come back and fix later. I wish I could make this box a little bit bigger because it's cutting off a little bit of... There we go. It's cutting off some of the text there. Doing well. Solar Auxilia. I've seen the boxes of the Solar Auxilia, but I've not actually got my hands on any of them. If I can bring some up on my other monitor over here. Let me go over there and there. And if I remember rightly, they are Horus Heresy kits. Forces of the Emperor. Solar Auxilia, there we are. Ah, yes, those guys. They're sitting in their void suits. Quite a good sculpt, actually, I think. Rifles. You can kind of see the original inspiration for the lasgun, because the early lasguns did look very similar to that. If I have to try and use my memory, unfortunately, and it's not fantastic when it comes to things that came out in the 1980s. It was the Imperial Army plastic box, RTB, something or other. No, that's not, hang on a minute. No. There. Again. Have I got an image that I can... go away. You, thank you very much. No, there's kind of one. Let me do some swizzling around. Get me. Where's me? Where are you? No, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you. You, there you are. Get that there. And save that on my PC as Laz. Metal exposed. Yeah, I mean, painting with metal exposed is a fairly it's fairly traditional more than anything else. It's been there since since the very beginning, really. The box art, if I can go back onto my other screen here, box art of the original lasgun is mostly just dark metal. Where were you? Pistols, there we are. And las, bring that up. Yes, there. And then I go punk and make you bigger. Yeah, that's an original Rogue Trader style lasgun. And if you compare that to oh hi, these are not Steel Legion. These are Deuterium Guard that I found somebody selling prints on Etsy, and I thought, rather than give Games Workshop a lot of money, I'll go and buy them myself and paint them. Anyway, yes, Solar Auxilia. Look at the lasguns they've got, and look at the style here, and you can see similarities. Yes, these lasguns are no longer available, unfortunately. If I come on, mouse, work with me here. There we are. Yeah. Because of course I was around in those days, so I got several boxes of them, and those were used by the squats as well. See, when you got boxes of squats, they had lasguns. There we are. Yes, also I've said it on various videos as well. I am very big on the whole don't blindly give Games Workshop money. If you like a sculpt, go out and buy it. If you see something and you think, oh, this is just there for banking on nostalgia, and they're putting the really huge prices on it, look around. See if you can find something that either is a better price or competition, so something somebody else is doing, like these Deuterium Guard. And I say that as somebody who worked for them 19 years ago. But yes, thank you very much for painting. I'll put my hand in the way. There we are. Slightly better focus on that one. Talon ones, yes, the Forge World Talon. I love Talon Desert Raiders. I have a lot of third party. I'm just gonna have to call them third party, aren't I? Third party Desert Raiders that I have kicking around, because I absolutely loved them when they were in metal, and then Games Workshop decided that was one of the ranges that they were going to stop doing, and people like me are like, oh, I can't get them anymore. Do I have any orcs? I do have a squad of original inspired Stormboys that I have been slowly painting in the original colours and styles. So grey uniforms, lots of black and red on the jump packs and weapons, and nice big bright green skin. I've seen the new orcs and they look fine. They look fine to me. I did once have, before moving here, I did once have an army of orcs that was, I think it was 200 Gretchen. I'm not sure if I've got photos of them. I'll have to have a look if I've got photos saved. But I don't think I have. Let me see on here. Let's see, have I got any photos of the orcs? Not on here, and I don't think I've got any that I've stored elsewhere, but let me quickly check my other locations where I store photos. No. Nothing there. No, I don't have any stored, but I can go to where I ordered them from. Put these on here. And as soon as I scroll down, I can get... no, that's Papsicles. That's not there. Here we go. And save that as okay. And switch here. Change that to that. Done. Whoa, man, that's big. But yeah, this is what the original Storm Boys inspired. I don't know why it decides to do different sizing. Whee! Here we are. But this is essentially what the first Storm Boys looked like. And so the ones I've got, all grey uniforms, big black boots, black cap, grey helmets, black and red jump packs, red on the chainswords and bolt pistols. No flying stands, so you have to do it yourself, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what the ones inspired by the original ones look like, because I'm old, and that's the era I come from. Hold on a minute, let me just get a bit of... I have to wash this brush, it's dried up on my brush. Looking at getting Storm Boys and knobs. Yeah, the new Storm Boys, the new-ish anyway, the ones that just got rockets slapped on the back, I think they've been around for a very, very long time. If I go over to here, orcs, let me just scroll until actually I could just do search, can't I? Search the store. Storm Boy. Let me just bring them up with other. Yeah, I think they're like a Gen 2 or Gen 3 Storm Boys. Because before them they used to have like rockets slapped on their backs. I've seen the Armageddon box. I'm probably not going to be getting it, but yes, I have seen it. I don't really have the space to store a lot of the things, and I don't play around here, so there's very little point me getting these big boxes. I mean, if there's a couple of models in there, it's like, okay, yes, I might look on eBay to see if one of them goes for a decent price, or check a parts reseller after a couple of months or two. But for the most part, generally speaking, I wouldn't go in for the big boxes just for personal reasons. Blast. Yeah, get the orcs separately. I've seen people doing that. And I've seen various people saying, "Oh, going in on the box, but sharing it with a friend." So one person has Marines, one person has orcs, and I would not be surprised if eBay is awash with them once 11th is released. We're just going, "Oh, here's one side or the other, or just a couple of miniatures from them." And most people have been saying, that I've seen anyway, that the orcs are the best part of the box set. A lot of it is callbacks, but get under there, there we are. If I could bring it up again, hang on, let me go back to where are we? Armageddon, there we are. Yeah, so yeah, orcs looking like the better half of it. I've got to go off of Game Virtual Web Store, and I've got to go to Warhammer community page, because they can't keep anything in one bloody spot. Yeah, the War Boss is decent. Old piece of orc lore, I don't know if it still exists, but it used to be that any orc that had an iron gob was looked down upon in orc society, because they no longer had the capability to grow their own teeth, and had to rely on charity handouts and go, well, you're obviously not very good because you lost your teeth and now you can't get any more, and they've had to have an iron gob, which isn't as good as your gob. I think that was old Gorkamorka lore. In fact, if you know the history of the various miniatures and everything, a lot of current orc design cues do actually come from Gorkamorka, which is a game I owned and I loved, because it was just pure orc silliness, even though it filled in a lot of what would eventually come to be actual orc lore. Although it did change some things, because like the Storm Boys, back in the beginning days, the Storm Boys were essentially young orcs. So the history used to be that when orcs were quote unquote born, because I don't think they'd actually settled on them being spore-based reproduction. So young orcs craved order and discipline, and so they would join the Storm Boy Corps in order to get lots of marching and parade drilling and all that. And it's only later in life that they would become chaotic. And so that's why Storm Boys all have uniforms. Yeah, Dakar Rig's a brand new machine. If I can scroll down to the Dakar Rig. Board track actually isn't too bad. It does have a lot of design elements from the early war track that I can remember. Dakar Rig does look very very modern orc. Just, you know, lots of stuff nailed together, big gun on it, lots of ammo. I saw someone point out that it's very nice of the mechs who provided all the ammunition to mark every 6th round as a tracer bullet. I thought that was rather amusing, because that's just something orcs wouldn't do, because they just wouldn't care about it. But yeah, they painted it up as like every 6th round as a tracer round. Yeah, the war track doesn't look very different. You are right, yeah. Should we get your Spaceman Army? Yeah, I mean, I've got a company of Space Marines kicking around in storage, and I'm one of these old grumblers as well, who were, when the Primaris came out, went, "You just want me to buy my whole army over again with your new Space Marines, don't you?" To which the GW store employee said, "No. The Primaris aren't replacing Firstborn Space Marines, no." And many years later, we find out that they practically are replacing Firstborn Space Marines, because Assault Marines no longer exist. Yeah, see, I had loads of armies before I moved it, but the issue with moving house is you have to decide what you leave behind. And one of the things I decided I was going to leave behind and hand off to people who would use them were all my armies. And I had pretty much one of every army that was going at the time. Tyrannies are decent. I've done Tyrannies for, well, done Tyrannies. I used to do Tyrannies for many years. Mainly on the Gaunt Swarm side, which was obviously very expensive. Yeah, re-release the second box set. Yeah, if they re-release Second Ed, then I would have been more tempted to go in and get it, because that's the edition I started with. That I picked up a box of Second Ed starter box when I was on holiday in Scotland with the family, and we went all the way up there for snow. There was no snow, and on one of the last days we were there, we wandered into a little game shop cubbyhole, and up on a shelf they had second edition 40k, and I begged for it. And I said, "Stop my pocket money for as long as it takes for me to pay you back." And my dad got it for me. Hyped for the new orcs apart from the retching. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Apart from the retching, do you probably mean Gretchen? I'm guessing. Because hype for the orcs apart from the retching is something completely different. Like, there's just no orcs retching here. Yeah, the grots. they look very, very similar to me to the metal ones that were released many years ago. In fact, quite similar, some of them, to again to the Gorka Morka grots. Looking at the guy who's holding what would be a stub gun, double hand grip on a stub gun. That to me looks very similar to Gorka Morka grot. Now, if you don't know Gorka Morka, I know I've said it already, but if you don't know Gorka Morka, it was a very, very fun orc version of Necromunda. Yeah, they are. There's not really a lot of changes, but yeah, it was. You get your little mob of boys, and a truck, or war tracks, or whatever you need to drive them around, and you go out and fight other mobs for as much scrap as you can pick up off the floor. And the more scrap you get, the more the mech boys of Mech Town like you. And if you want to, you can go visit the Pain Boy. Normally, because it's obviously like based on Necromunda, so if you got injured in Necromunda, you could go to the shops and try and buy a mechanical replacement limb. In Gorka Morka, if you got a serious injury and lost some fingers off your hand, or lost an eye, which would give you stat penalties, you could then go to the Pain Boy. I've been rambling so much now, haven't I? Keep OG, fifth one. Yeah, the guy with the shooter, yeah. Yeah, I don't know about dollar conversion either, I'm afraid. But to finish my ramble, one of the fun orky things about going to the Pain Boy was you could walk into the shop with your wounded boy, and what operation the Pain Boy decided you were going to have was entirely random. So you could go in and say, oh yeah, well, I want a replacement eye, and the Pain Boy would sedate your character, your lad, and you might come out after the operation with one of your eyes still missing, but both your legs missing as well, and having them replaced with a single wheel, because the Pain Boy just thought, yeah, that's what you need more than your eye. You need a wheel for legs. So it was like, yep, it's very, very orky. Salt and Black Reach. Oh yes. I don't think I ever picked up a Salt and Black Reach. I think that was the Salt and Black Reach. Was that the Ultramarines and Tyranids one? I'd have to search this. Hold on. Salt and Black Reach box set. Ah, no, that one. Found it on eBay. £101.68, which is probably about what Games Workshop would charge for it now. Orcs and Ultramarines, yeah. I don't think I got this one. Oh no, no, this is the one with War Boss Face Ripper, if I remember rightly. Looking at the the image of the Orc boss. Was that him? No, it's a different one. He's not got the Buzzsaw Power Claw. Yeah, 40 quid released. Inflation is a hell of a bitch. That's all I can say. That's all I can say to that one. Inflation's a hell of a bitch. And so's Games Workshop's take on inflation. Because they're like, oh yeah, let's just inflation means that money's going up, so let's get ahead of it and charge more. It's like, thanks Games Workshop. That's why we have 160 to 180 pound starter box sets now, with less models in than they ever had before. But yeah, that is definitely, looking at the rulebook, that's an edition that I had, but I think I just got the rulebook for it. I don't think I actually got the starter box. Yeah, no, I didn't get the starter box because that's got Deathcopters in it, and I never had any Deathcopters. Yeah. Yeah, I got a different different one, and I'll have to search it up as soon as I finish this, and I'm going to have to wash the brush up again because it feels like it's getting a bit clogged. Might have been Sanctus Reach might have been the one that I'm thinking of. Gruck Face Ripper, yeah, that was the guy. Which box was he from? Gruck Face Ripper. It was Sanctus Reach. Yeah, I got the Sanctus Reach box because I definitely remember having Gruck Face Ripper, and I don't know, you might be one of the ones that managed to make the journey with me, but most of them did not. Let's get the smaller brush back out again. But if I remember, the story of Sanctus Reach was quite good, because that was, if I remember, that had an accompanying short story with it, whereby some mech boys were getting their Gorkanauts, Morkanauts out from one of the, I think it was a rock that had landed, and going and taking on Imperial Knights, and not really understanding what was going on with the Imperial Knights, just that they were big and they were a thing to fight, and they had no clue about any of like the history or the nobility or anything like that about the Imperial Knights. They were just like, oh look, big thing, smash it, it'll be good scrap. because that's orcs. And orcs are great. In fact, it has been said by many people at many different times that the only species that is really enjoying their time in the 41st millennium is the orc. Nobody else is really that impressed with their time. Because obviously you've got the Imperium, which is, to put it mildly, a dystopian hell for most of the population. You've got the Eldar, who are dwindling to near nothing as a species because they accidentally created Slanesh. Chaos, who are mostly just slaves to whatever god they've devoted themselves to and exist just to throw themselves at the Imperium time and time again. Tau are okay if you don't count the whole, they are probably all being socially controlled by the Ethereals thing. Tyranids don't care because the whole galaxy is just a gigantic meal, and no matter what Games Workshop says, a galaxy spanning consciousness would not care about 1,000 people in red armor. They would just be like, oh, guess we either have to devote a few more over there to deal with that, or just ignore it. Dark Eldar are having fun, but only up until they can't capture anybody, and then they stop having fun again because there's nobody to stop their souls getting the big suck. I don't know enough about the lore of the squats that have been reintroduced to say anything about them, other than they're all pretty much slaves to AI. Genocide cults are kind of alright, right up until they win, and then they realise how badly they've mucked over their own situation. Similar to Chaos Cultists, because, you know, overthrowing the planetary government is all well and good, right up until your boss demands you give up everything in order to continue existing, or just says, okay, you have delivered this world to us, now you can go jump in the reclamation pool too. Thank you very much, your services are no longer required. And out of all of those, the orcs... Oh yeah, I forgot about the Necrons. What can I say about the Necrons, about how much they're enjoying things? Well, they're not really enjoying things too much because their great galactic civilization, they can't decide who's in charge of it, and there's a whole bunch of primitives crawling all over it who they've got to try and wipe out, which is taking up a lot of their time. And yeah, the orcs, the only guys that are left, are just like, hey, we just want to have a fight, some fun. That's their whole philosophy. So yeah, I want to have a fight. As long as there's someone around to fight, they're happy. Which is why when eventually Tusker Demon Killer wins, the galaxy is going to be rightly screwed over. The black's starting to dry on my palette, unfortunately. But thankfully, I've only got one guy left to apply it to. Come on, let's open you up a bit. Here we are. Oh, missed a bit. Going to do their belts. How am I going to do them? Bring you back up. Come on, mouse. No, you. Probably have to be brown. I have done a brown. Oh yeah, I have. Derp. That's alright. Just finishing up the black on the last guy. You managed to skip me having another ramble about how the orcs are about the only guys who actually like existing in Warhammer 40k. Because up in the corner of my screen it says there's still 2 people sitting and watching. So I was like, oh, I'll just continue talking, why not? I don't know if these people are actually there or not, so I'll just keep going. And unfortunately, the more I've painted, the more I found out that the last time I've left a few gaps, so I'm going to have to go over them probably after all this is done, just to neaten them up before they go onto a shelf. Because the alternative is just to dump them in a box. I don't really want to just go, you know, I've spent hours working on these, I don't want to just chuck them in a box somewhere. Yeah, some of those. And the black that I've got out of the dropper box is almost died on me. Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to redo. First bit, I'm gonna have to rework some of that glove. And grenade. Yeah, they are. They are mostly there. It's more again. Mostly all I've got left to do is, if I put my hand in front of this one again, So I've kind of got metals on the exposed parts of the lasgun. So lasgun barrel, not the suppressor. The charge pack, handle, a couple of bits around the back. Grenade will have to be silvered up. The rim of the goggles need to be silvered. The piece in, if I move this up to the middle there, piece directly in the centre that kind of looks like a CB kind of thing, which is attached to their rebreather. That'll need to be silvered. The canteen I'll probably just do at some point in green. And yeah, they're I'm not quite sure what kind of roll that is. It looks like a bedding roll because it's not big enough to be an overcoat like the Valhounds have got. Just this final little bit of black on you before the paint dries, please. Oh, this is not sponsored by Wargames Atlantic, by the way. I just happened to buy the bases from them. But yeah, there's a couple of little bits. I mean, I could do a bit more if I've missed some straps. Bit of metaling on the belt bits there. But it's mostly just kind of minor details now. It's all that's required on them. Yeah, well, have fun. And remember that however you want to paint them, it's perfectly fine with the orcs themselves, because orcs only care for fighting. I've just got to cool off a moment. Where? Starting to get oh, there go my keys. Starting to get a little hot, so I'm going to turn my fan on, which might make a bit of noise. Come on, settle down, fan. Yeah, that's probably going to be making an unfortunate amount of background noise, but I need it to cool off. Right. Oh, I missed a bit of black on there. I may have to just go over that later. Let's see. I think gunmetal. Thank you very much. Have a good time. And cheers for coming along. Here we are. That's probably a decent-ish dry brush. Alright. Let's give a go. Woo. Let's give a go dry brushing grenades on this fella. I could kind of do some dry brushing across the pack, but I think if we just do that as regular and then wash and highlight with a lighter metal, it might end up looking better. Let's just go, is that decent? Yeah, okay. Yep, that seems to have come out quite well. In fact, I could probably get away with just using what I've got on the brush on the rest of these grenades. Pardon me. No, okay, I won't be able to get away with using just what I've got on the brush with the rest of the grenades. Put those back on. Wow. I forgot to black up his rebreather. Well, this will be a good chance to see the potential differences between... oh dear, that didn't print out very well, did it? Between metal on black and metal on grey. Yeah. Okay, brush change. No, let's not do that one. Insane. This one will probably do the job, but I'm going to have to lean in quite close so that my eyes work. Push it back there. Come on. Focus eyeballs. There we are. Bring him up a little bit. There. I don't think I've missed anything on that particular bit. Seems to have come out quite well. This is potentially the one I've mucked up the most on. It wasn't too bad. Drat, I've gone over the lens. Also, I need to keep remembering to reposition my hand, and I do make that mistake. Yeah. May need to do a black wash in there just to neaten that one up. Oh, don't you slide anywhere, palette. Oh no. I'm going to have to get rid of that. Where did I put... There they are. I have a single bristle that has decided to detach itself from the main. There we go. That one I think I mucked up on. It's been an hour already. Ugh. Forgot to brown up his goggles. Well, more fixes later that will need to be done. Another one I forgot to brown up the goggles on. Well, didn't quite go as I had hoped, but it's alright. Let's just prepare another. This one's actually mangled, which is a real shame. Yeah. Oh, there's a bit more there, it needs neating up. Right, let's try this just for the major metaling. You are spitting already, aren't you? Annoying. Have to get. It's what happens when you don't look after your paintbrushes like me. They start fraying. But looking after paintbrushes was never anything I was taught. So it is not something I know how to do or pass on information about. In fact, in the early days, I don't think we ever had paintbrushes really this thin in our house. And so what we would do is we take an existing brush, use it until it started fraying. Once it has frayed, clip off the bits that are no longer required, and now you've got yourself a paintbrush for doing slightly better detailing, or slightly more fine detailing to be exact. Oh well, there's a printing support there. This angle, yeah. I may just end up not highlighting that. Yep. It's not exactly super fine for time and detailing, but it's got the job done. Going to have to redo that bit as well. Oh, oh no, of course it's got that on top of it, hasn't it? Oh, look at that. Oh, so that's how they do theirs. Interesting. They have it bare metal up to there as well. Well, if that's the way that the Legion have their guns, then that's the way the Legion have their guns. Okay. Well, we can actually see. Couldn't see them on the other guys, could I? No. Okay. Let's get these buttons, clasps, or whatever you want to call them. There we go. Ooh. got to do the whole round a bit. Never mind. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Hello again, welcome back. I have not progressed much further. I take it the painting of the orcs started and then stopped, or could not be located? Oh, you actually did. Okay, cool. So, how far are you along with them? Are you just base coating them? You got using like speech painting kind of stuff? Because that was a very quick time away, if you don't mind my saying so. I can neat that. Speed posts with Tyranids. Good, good. Destroyers are a bit fun, aren't they? Clothes and weapons, good. Big areas, best to start with. I was always told that if you're going to start with anything, start with the lowest layer, because then you can just if you're making mistakes, you can just claim that the top layer is just over going over the lower layer. War boss in mega armor. Is that the mega armor? Is that the war boss with a grot on top with a gun on? Also, Vostroyans should be fairly. Let's see, because I've got. Where are we? I want to show you something. Let me get him from down here. I wonder what regiment these guys could be from. Yes, it is that one. I was right. Okay. Yeah, I wonder what regiment these guys are from, eh? They're part of the bundle I bought When I bought them, I had no idea that the Vostroyans were going to go on made to order. I just happened to order. I was like, hey, I remember them. Priming gold, contrasting red. Woo! Get my hand out of the way. Interesting. Let me get my Vostroyan back. Alright, not quite the same Vostroyan, but a different Vostroyan. Because they don't quite look the same. If I had a picture of Vostroyan up before, but I'm not sure if I still have one kicking around. Okay. Ryan Firstborn, let's get them back up. Because they are we'll have a community. If it was me, I know these aren't quite the same thing, because obviously they can't be quite the same thing. If they're the actual Vostroyans, the actual proper Vostroyan minis, I would say I'll probably say go for the red first, because that's the biggest surface area. It's all the clothing is all red, because then you can shade, either dry brush or line highlight, however you prefer to highlight them, and then you can do the paneling afterwards, the goldy bronze armor plating afterwards. I can't do that on this one because the only cloth I've got really is kind of here. So I'll be like, oh, that bit's red and this bit is going to be bronze and bronze and bronze and bronze, a little bit red up there. But I would probably say prime them. Don't prime them black, because reds are low pigmentation normally, and they don't show up very well on black. So probably better for a grey or a white. I don't know how well red is going to come up on a gold undercoat, because I've never tried it. But the problem is metallics don't tend to come up very well on light colours. But yeah, I'd probably say prime white or grey, and then red on, unless you've got a miniature that you can muck around with and test out how well it will actually come out. Priming gold first. But that's not something I have done, so not something I can give any kind of experience advice on. On the other hand, Gazgol, lots of big flat areas, or flattish areas anyway. If it's the newest new Gazgol, and the one who's basically just lots of armour and a tiny little head poking out. That one should be fairly easy to get done, because it says, am I going to do in black? Yeah, pretty much just going to do in black. But I think GW didn't really do a particularly good job. If I can go back, where was I before? there. If I go back, you, home, 40k, Xenos, Orcs. Yeah, the way they've done him is basically just every piece of armor is black. Yeah. I've never tried freehand checkers. I can tell you that much as well. My hands are not as steady as they used to be. So although I'm alright at freehanding, I wouldn't want to try it myself. Yeah, exactly. Primary in black, 75% done. One thing I do is, if I want a proper blacky black, I'll prime black, and then I'll get black Templar contrast and layer that over the top, because that makes it generally a nice smooth black. And then, you know, if you want to dry brush metals or a grey for the edging, you're pretty much done. But that's how I did a chaplain that I've got, Terminator chaplain. I just went 2 layers of contrast, and there you go. He's pretty much sorted. Well, yeah, I suppose you're right on that one. Yeah, doesn't really matter too much if it doesn't turn out right. Just because you say, well, it's orcs. What do they care about being neat? In fact, I saw one person probably a couple of weeks ago now, I think, on I think it was on Twitter, although it might have been on Von Carmine's Discord, I can't remember, who is painting orcs, and they free-handed on various bits of orc language. So obviously, you know, they obviously looked it up, what each glyph means, and they just started doing little bits of writing on the various orc plating, which I thought was really neat. I've missed a lot of metals. I think I've missed some belts. Did I miss your belt? I did miss your belt. Did I miss your belt as well? I did not miss your belt as well. Okay. Great, yeah. I mean, it's a fun little thing to do. If you got it, you might as well you might as well write it on, because again, why would orcs not glyph up their own stuff? if the whole painting a specific colour actually affects it in universe, which it does. We know that orc machines that are painted red do actually go faster. Then why would they not write things in order to further invoke the powers of Walk and Walk? Or, you know, just for a laugh. If you wanted to write Yumi's Go Home on the front of your wall track, then you know, do it for a laugh. I've missed too many of those bars. I keep forgetting about those. Wow. I have no idea what this pot on an actual real gun is called, by the way. It's, I think it's supposed to be where the... because I think that's supposed to be a sighting mechanism down there, like a built-in dot sight. Or at least that's always what I've assumed it is. Can I actually get at yours? Kinda. There. Oh. Change my seating. Straight after saying I've forgotten to do the bars on the top of the guns, I forget to do the bar on top of his gun. Right. Metals. Oh no, I think I've forgotten a couple of the rebreathers. Looking at it from this distance, I believe I've forgotten his rebreather. Yes, I have. There, and I think yours as well. Yes, I've forgotten yours. I think everyone else is. Oh, yours. No, okay, yeah, I just missed a bit of the top of yours. There we are. Right. Metals. Metalled. Now I'm going to take a couple of minutes because I want to get my drink and one of my snacks I've got nearby. Prime British snack. Giant Wotsits. And San Pellegrino lemonade. Let's see, move you out of the way to there. Now, did I bring up? I did. Nile oil, never leave home without it. Or never stay at home without it. It's absolutely brilliant paint. I love it. Grenade. Darken that down a tad. Shift the wheel a little bit more towards the centre. There we go. Oh, pardon me. Forgot. Didn't do that. I forgot his little hand control panel. Oh well. Hopefully it'll come off looking decent with just a dry brush. Let's see, how well would this work? Might need a couple of coats or just fill in the black. Right, while I wait for that to dry, I am going to experiment with one of these not quite Vostroyans sitting over here. Give them a coat of probably, let me see, what have I got kicking around? Nah, that's too dark. Probably give them a shot of brass and then try this as an experiment, going over it in red. See how it turns out. I don't need a particularly... Yeah, you'll do. Right, who shall I pick? Let's have Grenadier. Yeah. Give that a couple of minutes so I can have another what's it, and I'll go over in red and let's see how that looks. You see, if I had a red contrast, but I don't have that, unfortunately. It's got a regular red and Carabao Crimson wash. In fact, I think that's over the other section. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, I haven't got any red speed paints. You're going to be annoying, aren't you, you little cat? Let's get this one. So contrast should be thicker than this. I don't know how much thicker it'll be. Can't really do under there. Yes, it's still got too much of the metallic shine for what I would like. But as I say, this is Carabao Crimson, not the speed paint. doesn't look too bad. Gold prime and a standard red. Doesn't look too bad. Look, the you can see just the Caribou Crimson, which again, as I said, isn't as thick as the contrast, has kind of ended up being more of a purple, more of a kind of a metallic kind of purple. Well, that was a fun experiment. So I will getting towards the end of these fellows now. So what I'll do is I'll get the white arm patches sorted, and then the rolls on their backs, and I think I'll be able to call them complete enough at that point. Let's have this brush. Now, fortunately, Games Workshop probably copyright means that they can't have the lightning bolts. And it's probably going to require a couple of layers to get that sorted out. Right, that's it. Now, brown. I think my fur brown is probably what I'll use. Let me just check if that's, because I think that's the same. No, okay, so it was the leather brown was the one I used before, so fur brown is what I'm going to use now, just on these bags, because as tempting as it is just to go brown, same brown, I do like to have a little variety if I'm using the same band of colour. So if I'm having multiple browns, multiple blues, multiple yellows, have different shades and contrasts if I can get away with it. Whoops. There we are. Right. A quick wash. Wait for that to dry. And a highlight. And I think we're almost at a stage where we can call that good enough. Because as someone very wise once told me, or at least wiser than I am, when it comes to art, nothing is ever finished, it is just finished enough. Yes, you will do. Yeah. There. not focusing very well, is it, on things this far? Okay, there we are. Need to move my hand back a bit. As I say, my camera's not really focusing. This is a brand new camera, by the way. It's not focusing very well on things that get a little bit too close. Mainly probably because of the background, if I had to guess. And possibly my fingers. Maybe that's what it's trying to focus on. There we are. And I can now move this out of the way. So, ooh, there we are. It's nice and shaded. Wait for it to dry while I mix up a highlight for it and probably have another what's it. One quick dry brush and then I think we'll be calling it, well, I was going to say calling it a day, but calling it actually a session. Oops, that's far too much that came out of there. That is most unfortunate for me. Yes, it's barely changed. Okay. One downside to dropper bottles is if the nozzle gets a little bit clogged when you're trying to squirt some paint out in order to make a mix like I am doing, then you can get far too much and then you end up wasting paint. But I'll give this a go. After a what's it? Alright, after two what's it? Okay. Well, looks alright, but I may have had a little bit too much on a big brush. Still, it's the brush I've got, so it's the brush I'm using. yeah, you're still wet in there, in that bit. Yeah, okay. I must have just put a little bit too much on the sergeant, because the rest of these seem to have dried fairly quickly. Well, there you go. Let me quickly clean this brush out. There we are. Now, it's obviously not perfect, because I've not spent nearly as much time as I normally would. But there we are. Nice black metals on there. Got his roll, got his boots, got his helmet and everything in there done. Not really. Oh, I need to do a bit more on there. Oh, we need a bit closer. There we are, a little bit more detail. I'm not going to do anything on the actual mask, because that's going to be far too fiddly. Need to do his black piping. But what I'm going to do now is I will end the stream and work on these a little bit in my off time. Get them up to where I would, I'd like to have them. So I think I need to do a little bit of little work on boots, because I finished off last stream without shading and highlighting the browns. So do the boots, do the packaging, highlighting on there, and the gloves, neaten up any old areas, anything I've missed, take a photo or 4 potentially, and then go and stick them up on, I'll most likely do a post on YouTube, stick them up on there. I'll probably put them up on social media as well. But if I go to my channel, so this has been equivalent of 3, 4, 5. This is coming on approximately 6 hours of work, essentially, doing this. Yeah, because the first one was about 3.25 hours. This has been 2.5. So, yeah, almost 6 hours, which is pretty quick to paint a squad. But yes, there's obviously much more work that could potentially be done on them. So, I will say thank you for everyone who popped along, especially people who popped along and actually came up with random stuff to talk about, even though it wasn't, not really that random, 40k related. I'll fill in all the bits I've missed, do a little bit of extra work on them, stick up the photos, and that'll be done. I'll have to wait until the next time I can potentially get a Sunday off to see about doing another stream with these guys. I dread doing the hats. But yeah, I will say toodaloo.